This is the new 2025 Ram RHO, and it's the new high-performance off-road Ram pickup truck. Now, everybody's been complaining because this truck's predecessor, the Ram TRX, had over 700 horsepower, and this has only 540 horses. But there's a lot to like about this truck. It's better than you think. And today, I'm going to review the new Ram RHO and explain and show you all of its quirks and features. Today's video is sponsored by Cars and Bids, which is my online car auction website for modern enthusiast cars. So far, Cars and Bids has sold almost $500 million worth of cars. All sorts of special and cool stuff like this, and this, and this, and this. If you're looking to sell your enthusiast car, reach a vast audience at carsandbids.com. All right, time for the quirks and features of the new Ram RHO, and let's just get into it. Let's talk about the big stuff. What is the RHO? What happened to the TRX? And why is everybody so upset about it? Okay, so the TRX was the previous high-performance off-roader Ram pickup truck. It's ending after the 24 model year. The RHO, this truck, is the new high-performance off-roader Ram pickup truck, and it's beginning right now for the 25 model year. And I should point out right away that RHO is how you say it. I asked the Ram people directly. It is not RHO. They pronounce the letters individually, RHO. But anyway, the TRX, the previous truck, had a supercharged Hellcat V8 with over 700 horsepower. The RHO, the new truck, has a twin-turbo six-cylinder with 540 horsepower. So you can see where some of the disappointment sets in. The old truck with more power and a V8, that's gone. The new truck has less power and a six-cylinder. But in all the criticism of the RHO for not being the TRX, I think a few rather important points have gotten lost. Most importantly, the RHO is now radically cheaper than the TRX was. For its final model year, the TRX had a starting price of $94,000 with shipping. This truck starts around $71,000 with shipping, so it's over $20,000 cheaper, the base price, compared to the TRX. More importantly, the RHO is now in direct competition with the Ford Raptor, which has been the most popular full-size off-roader pickup for over a decade now. And frankly, the competition is favorable to the RHO. The Raptor starts around $81,000 with only 450 horsepower. So this has a $9,000 cheaper starting price and about 90 more horsepower than the Raptor. That's a pretty big advantage for the RHO. And while the RHO doesn't have as much power as before, it's not exactly slow. The TRX did 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. This does it in 4.5 seconds. That's not TRX fast, but it's still really quick by full-size pickup standards, and it's quicker than the Raptor, which is probably more important. This truck also tows more than the outgoing TRX. The tow capacity is just under 8,400 pounds, which is almost 300 pounds more than the TRX. And because of the smaller engine, it's lighter up front. It loses about 150 pounds of front weight, which will make it a little bit more manageable when you're driving it fast. Now, with all this said, some people will point out, and rightfully so, that in addition to the regular F-150 Raptor, Ford also sells a Raptor R with a massive supercharged V8 and over 700 horsepower like the TRX used to have, and now Ram has no competitor to that vehicle. That's true, but it's also worth pointing out that that segment of the market, the $100,000 700 horsepower off-road pickup segment, that's a tiny little sliver of this market. And frankly, I think it makes more sense for Ram to take on the more popular, more widespread regular Raptor with the RHO. You may not like it, but Ram is going here with or without you, ditching the big old V8 and going for the RHO, and frankly, more sales. So let's talk quirks and features. On the hood, on this big power bulge, you can see there's a badge that says Hurricane High Output. Hurricane is the name that Chrysler has given to this engine, this twin-turbo six-cylinder, which is in several different vehicles, not just the Ram or the RHO. But high output is reserved for the top models, and indeed, that's what HO in RHO stands for. Think of it as Ram High Output. Now, when you open up the hood, you look in here, and you got to admit, it just isn't as cool looking as seeing that big ol' Hellcat V8 under the hood with the big supercharger. Looking at a six-cylinder that says twin turbo on the side just doesn't quite have the same gravitas. But it's still a pretty impressive powertrain, and it still has a functional air intake hood scoop. You can see the hood scoop here. When you open up the hood on the inside, it says Ram Airflow, and it actually does send air into the engine, an air intake, which is cool to see. It's also worth pointing out, with this engine, if anyone cares, fuel economy actually increases significantly compared to the TRX. Because it's a smaller engine with less power and less weight, fuel economy rises from 12 miles per gallon in combined city and highway driving the TRX up to 15, which isn't a huge number, but it's a pretty substantial increase over the very thirsty TRX. Now, as you can imagine, four-wheel drive is standard with the Ram RHO, and these trucks come with some pretty cool upgrades over regular run-of-the-mill Ram trucks. Let's start with the tires. 35-inch Goodyear all-terrain tires, as you can see. They're ready to take on the trails or even off the trails. Pretty capable. And that's matched with Bilstein suspension, as you can see here. Pretty beefy, heavy-duty suspension for really serious off-road driving, even at high speed. Ram says this truck has up to 14 inches of wheel travel in back and 13 inches up front, so it can pass over some pretty serious stuff. There's also 12 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty amazing for a vehicle that doesn't have air suspension to lift itself up. It's just a regular fixed 12 inches. Now, another cool RHO benefit is the massive track. These big tires necessitate big, wide fender flares, as you can see, just like the TRX had. They look tremendously cool and make this look like a desert runner truck, certainly setting it apart from other Ram models. And these fender flares are so wide that they push this vehicle into non-passenger car territory for government regulatory purposes, requiring that it have these cool-looking marker lights as it does up front. These are here by regulation, but they really do look cool and give it kind of a beefy, mean, exciting look. And speaking of lighting, worth pointing out, when you turn on the turn signal up front, you get a little sweeping turn signal instead of just a quick flash, which makes it feel, I guess, modern and cool. Now, also worth pointing out up front, you don't just have a regular bumper here. This is a steel bumper, and it has hooks in it, as you can see, recovery hooks, so this truck can pull other lesser trucks out when they get stuck. It's the same deal in back. You have a factory steel bumper with factory recovery hooks welded in there. They're not going to fall off, which is always nice to see. Also kind of cool with that back bumper, there's a step built into it that sort of retreats under the bumper when it's not being used, but you can kind of kick it out and then stick it in place, and you can use the step to climb into the bed, which is a neat touch, kind of neat to see back there, adds some practicality. Also in back, as you can see, giant exhaust pipes, dual exhaust, make this truck look like it has a serious sound, but it doesn't quite. Take a listen to the Hurricane six-cylinder. And one other exterior quirk worth pointing out, on the outside of the truck, on the side of the bed, RHO is printed in massive letters, as you can see, Ram High Output. I gotta tell you, I like this truck. I like a lot of things about it. I wish they had named it something a little cooler. Ford has the Raptor. You say that and it instantly conjures up this aggressive creature in the pickup truck. RHO, just some letters. I think they could have done better. Why not Rhino? And next we move inside the interior of this truck, which has quite a few interesting quirks and features to discuss, but we'll start with the general interior quality, which frankly is pretty good. A lot of nice leather basically everywhere you look, a lot of nice stitching, contrast colors, some good materials practically everywhere. Makes sense considering a lot of these trucks will be in the $80,000 to $90,000 range when equipped with options, so it's nice to see that it has sort of the interior you'd expect at that price point. There are also several RHO specific upgrades in this interior that help make you feel special in this truck beyond just the exterior styling. The most obvious RHO upgrade is this plaque on the center armrest that says RHO and has a picture of a rhino. They were thinking rhino. Why not just call it that? But anyway, this plaque also tells you where the truck was designed, and interestingly, it gives engine statistics. The name of the engine, the power, even the boost, which is kind of surprising to see on a plaque in the center console. And then you have the VIN of your specific truck. I guess all that stuff is kind of cool. You also have some distinctive RHO badging. You can see it stitched into the seat back, RHO. You also have it on the dashboard on the passenger side right here, RHO. You have it on the key. You get a special RHO key, as you can see, and at the top of the gauge cluster, RHO. So there are some nice special RHO touches in here. But probably the coolest RHO upgrades in the interior are some cool features this truck has, like launch control. You can see the button for it right here. The button actually has a drag strip Christmas tree on it, which frankly is pretty cool to see. But yes, this truck, even though it's an off-roader performance truck, it still has launch control for on-the-pavement launches. You also have a separate button for RHO drive modes, and when you press that, it pulls up an amazing amount of drive mode configurability. You can see there are 8 different drive modes for you to select from depending on which terrain you want. One of those drive modes is custom, which then allows you to customize several different factors that all the drive modes differ from each other on. You can choose exactly what you want to program. It's quite amazing just how configurable this truck is to your precise whim or the precise terrain that you're crossing. Okay, but beyond the RHO quirks in this interior, the Ram has also been recently updated, and that includes some new interior touches. So let's go through the general quirks and features of this truck, starting with all the screens. The big story in this truck is screens, screens, screens. We start with the main screen, which is this massive vertical screen, absolutely huge. It integrates a lot of stuff, but it's also tremendously easy to use. Of course, comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but also very intuitive, even in the regular Ram infotainment system. It's also very responsive to your touch, does exactly what you would expect it to, and has some really cool features. For instance, the camera system in this truck is absolutely fantastic. Tremendously high quality cameras, as you can see, many different angles, which is quite impressive. And there's even a little button you can tap for auxiliary cameras that you can plug into the truck if you have trail cams, you want to see something different while you're driving along. This truck is pre-set up for that stuff. There's even a quick shortcut to a curb camera. As you can see right here, you tap on that and it shows where you are relative to the curb. This is a big truck, parking it can be difficult, and so that curb camera might come in handy. Another cool feature in this infotainment system is performance pages, which is Chrysler's high performance data area. It essentially shows you everything you might want to know about the situations of this truck. G-forces, elevation, steering angle, current accelerator, push percentage, anything you might want to see is here in performance pages in case you want to, do some performance and see how you're doing. Indeed, this system does have a lot of stuff, some really great features, but like I said, it's intuitive. When I'm using it, I never feel like I still haven't found what I'm looking for. However, with that said, a couple of drawbacks. One, the climate controls, they are mostly integrated into the sides of the screen with distinctive buttons, which is a really cool idea and allows you to control control most climate control functions without going into any screen menus. But unfortunately, that doesn't include the heated seats. If you want the heated seats, you do have to go into the comfort menu and then turn them on. Requires a couple of taps instead of a simple button. The massaging seats, and by the way, this truck has massaging seats. That alone is pretty cool, but accessing them is kind of difficult. You have to go into the app section and then scroll until you find massaging seats. It's not that easy, but Ram thought of that, and there's a separate special button on the door panel. You can press this right here, and it turns on the massage and brings up your massage menu on the screen to make it easier, which is pretty cool. Anyway, moving on from this screen, let's talk rear view camera, which itself is actually a screen. You flip this switch and now you have the rear view camera screen behind you, which is cool. The gauge cluster screen is the next interesting one, and I love how configurable this gauge cluster screen is. It is tremendously easy to use and to have display whatever you want to see. Full screen map, no problem. The music you're listening to, no problem. You can select between 5 different panels of information and scroll through all of them to see exactly what it is you want, and it's very easy to select. A lot of these systems make you go into all sorts of menus and screens to exactly configure what's there. Not here. It's just a couple of button presses on the steering wheel and you have exactly what you want to see right in front of you. It's a fantastic gauge cluster screen system. But probably the most interesting and unusual screen in this truck is the one on the passenger side of the dashboard. Yes, there is another screen over here. To turn it on, you press this little power button when you're sitting in the passenger seat and it comes on. And it has 2 possible functions. Number 1 is kind of a pared down version of what you have on the center screen. You can't do all of the center screen functions, but you can do a few of them on the passenger screen. But more importantly, the passenger screen allows passengers to watch stuff. They can watch movies. You can plug in like USB or HDMI. There's a port right here for passenger HDMI for a movie player, and then the passenger can sit here watching movies with headphones on while the driver drives. Honestly, it's a pretty good idea. For years, we've had screens for rear seat passengers to watch, but the front passenger just had to sit there and talk to the driver. No longer. Now you can sit and watch your own screen from the passenger seat, a movie right in front of you while you drive along. And it's important to point out that the way they've configured this screen, the driver cannot see it from the driver's seat. You can only see what's on the screen if you're sitting directly in front of the screen watching your movie. And as you might expect, there are some other interesting quirks and features beyond the screens. I love, for example, that the wireless charging system for your phone is called the Ram Charger in this truck. That was an old Dodge SUV name, the Ram Charger, and they figured, hey, let's bring it back for a charging device in your Ram, which is a pretty neat idea. Also, another novel little quirk in here, go to the steering wheel, and the little icon you push to turn on the driver assist has a picture of a steering wheel like it does in most cars, but here it is a Ram-specific steering wheel with the actual Ram logo in the middle of the steering wheel on the button, just like it appears in the middle of the steering wheel in the real truck, which is kind of a cool little touch. And of course, adding to that novelty, the recirculating air climate control button also has an image of a truck, not just a regular generic vehicle, but a truck because you're in a truck. A nice little quirk they figured out. And speaking of images of trucks, if you open up the center console, you'll discover at the base of your center storage area images of historical models of the Dodge Ram pickup truck going back through the years, which is kind of a neat little quirk in there to see. But more unusual, on the inside of the center console storage lid, you have, well, all this, which includes a protractor that you can use to measure angles, a ruler that you can use to measure stuff. You also have a standard to metric wrench conversion chart in the bottom corner, and on the other side, a fraction to decimal chart in case you're trying to remember what fractions become what decimals. Here it is inside your truck. You even have trigonometric ratios here, sine, cosine, and tangent, all printed under the center storage lid, and even the Pythagorean theorem in case you're trying to remember that stuff you just can't. Forget about Google, you got it integrated into your truck. Maybe most interesting here though, and certainly most useful, is that there is a household power port inside this center console storage area. Not just USB-C or USB, but a household port, which is always nice to have, especially within easy reach of the front seat occupants. And next up we move on to the back of the new Ram RHO. RHO. And of course, you got a lot of space back here. This is a full-size quad cab or crew cab truck, whatever they call it now. And there is good space in back for rear passengers and all 3 seats. The middle seat is not shafted. It also has really good space for people to sit back here. There is a lot of room in the back of this truck. And there are some surprisingly nice comfort and convenience luxury amenities back here. Like, for example, heated and cooled rear seats, which is not something you find even on a lot of high-end luxury cars. You also have a lot of power ports to charge your devices. USB-A and USB-C, 2 of them each, so 4 total. Plus, you have a household-style power port right below that where you can plug in a power strip if you want to and run a blender and a toaster at the same time, or at least you can try. Other nice features in the back of this truck, you can fold down the center seat and it actually reveals a pretty nice armrest with cup holders and a storage compartment under there, and even an Alcantara armrest, which is a surprise to see an Alcantara surface. Surprisingly nice for something that's mostly going to be just folded away a lot of the time. But overall, a really nice experience in the back of this truck. Also worth pointing out, some practical storage items back here. The back pocket of the front seat has some nice storage where you can stick stuff, and then some little loops where you could put pens or other sort of small cylindrical items if you want. And you can lift up the seat bottom, as you can see, reveals even more storage back here in case you want to put other stuff hidden that you don't necessarily want to put in the bed, have it exposed and rolling around. Now, getting out of this truck, worth pointing out, is a little bit difficult because you don't have power running boards where you can easily step down. Instead, you have rock sliders, which are intended to protect the truck when you're on some rocky terrain so it won't damage the paint. As a result, entry and exit is a little difficult, but kind of par for the course for a big full-size pickup truck. And finally, we move on to the bed, which frankly isn't really all that unusual. The tailgate is power operated. You can do it from a button inside, from the button I just pressed, or a button on the key fob, and it automatically opens right up to give you bed access. But once you're in here, again, nothing particularly special or exciting, although you do have a power port in here and a pretty heavy duty one under this panel. Open it up and you can charge, well, frankly, a lot of stuff in the bed of your Ram truck. But other than that, just a fairly standard truck bed, and you want to get out, you just push the button to pop up the tailgate and it automatically closes right up. But with those quirks and features in mind, you're probably wondering, how does the new RHO drive? That's the big question. Let's find out. All right, driving the new Ram RHO. And we're out in the desert here, and this truck really kind of belongs out here. You know, these dirt trails sort of where the streets have no name, just driving along over stuff, which is kind of how it feels. And honestly, one cool thing about this truck is that it can tackle these dirt trails like it's really no big deal. You know, you go very cautiously in a car, even in a crossover. In this kind of truck, you just can step on it and go, and you feel totally confident that it can handle all of it. I'm going now 50 miles an hour on just a complete dirt road in the middle of nowhere in the desert. It's pretty cool that this truck's just doing it. And you do feel like it's totally capable of handling that, although it does feel just a little bit unstable. Not anything to do with the truck, but you're on a loose surface, you know, on all-terrain tires. Like, this isn't driving a sports car around a racetrack. My first impression of this truck, 2 things. Number one, it's an aggressive, sporty truck. You know, there's a lot of complaints. Oh, it's not a TRX. Well, I mean, again, the bulk of this market really is in the Raptor world in terms of pricing and performance and all that. And this truck is a Raptor, and it's a darn good one. It's fast, and it's fun, and it's brawny, and I feel like I can do anything, and that is just damn cool. The other thing, though, that I noticed right away with this truck, it doesn't sound as cool. And you knew that was coming, but it's really true. It just doesn't sound as cool. It's no TRX when it comes to that big old burbly, brawny V8 going at it. But I am driving, now I'm driving again pretty hard on a dirt road, and it is pretty darn capable. It soaks it up. It's fast. It feels like I can go over just about any wallop or whoop in the road. This thing is, woo, this thing is a pretty cool truck. You can't say otherwise. That's the thing. Like, I think that if there had never been a TRX, people would be so pumped that Ram's finally come out with a Raptor rival. But because there has been a TRX, people are disappointed, like, oh, they're dumbing down the truck. Well, I think they're going after sales, and that's what a company does. Now, I'm going to get back on the road. It'd be nice to take this truck on a real off-road course, and the people here at Ram, they have one available for me. But I think the truth is the majority of people who are buying this truck are going to mainly use it on the street, and probably on dirt roads like the one I was just on. So what's it like, you know, actually just driving it under normal circumstances? I'm going to launch it here on the street. Woo! Yeah, I mean, it's fast. This is a fast truck. It feels faster than the Raptor. That's because it is faster than the Raptor, but it feels it. You can tell. Honestly, this does not feel like it's given up that much to TRX. TRX always felt fast, but also like a little uncontained and sort of insane. This is a little bit more of a rational thing when you floor it, and I think it drives pretty darn well. You step on it and it actually feels relatively less just totally crazy insane. Now you're missing that compared to TRX. That was a cool thing about the TRX, but this truck feels a little bit more like planted and stable and like it's gonna just kind of behave in a predictable way. Overall, I'm actually pretty surprised by this truck, mainly because I think it is better than I was expecting at just general life. Like, I kind of assumed this would be a bit of a party piece truck, just like the TRX sort of was, that giant engine, but it got 10 miles per gallon and it was absurd to drive. This truck actually drives totally normally and reasonably, and I think it would be a totally rational thing to just daily drive, but then also you have this cool off-road truck, you know, at your fingertips when you want to go out to the desert or when you want to just floor it on the freeway, get some good passing power going. Like, it really is a surprisingly capable and competent vehicle, just as an all-rounder and as a crazy high-performance off-road truck. It can really do it all, and it's impressive that it can, especially considering that it has a lot more power than a Raptor. It costs less than a Raptor, and I think it offers a lot of great benefits. It looks really good. The tech is really fantastic. Honestly, I think that, I'm surprised to say it because I love the Raptor, but I think I would seriously consider buying this truck over the Raptor. I also frankly prefer how it looks with the big wide Ram fenders and the general Ram design. It's a really competent, well-done truck, and pretty good at the price point considering all that it offers. And so that's the new 2025 Ram RHO. Yes, it's true, this truck is no TRX, but it still looks incredibly cool, it's tremendously capable, it's really fast, and it has a lot more power than the Ford Raptor for less money. Don't think of this as the TRX replacement, instead think of it as the Raptor rival, and frankly, it's pretty good at that. And now it's time to give the new Ram RHO a DougScore. And the DougScore is here, 65 out of 100, which puts the Ram RHO here 1 point ahead of the vaunted F-150 Raptor. That's a big deal, as basically nothing has ever been able to take down the Raptor since it came out over a decade ago, but I really think I prefer the RHO. It's a better value with more power, and it looks damn cool. Stellantis quality is always a concern, but the Raptor isn't exactly a shining paragon of reliability itself. And while I love both of these trucks, to me, the Ram gets the slight victory nod.